in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What is up, my people? Happy Monday to you. Welcome into another great show of Nothing But Rants. Again, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. As that beautiful man in the intro said, these are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. Hey, we have spring intel coming down the tracks. That's right. That's what's coming down the tracks tonight. We also have some position battle updates for you guys, as well as some year two players that need to make sure they are up to par and continuing to do so the remainder of spring on into the summer and damn sure during this fall season. Glad to have you in tonight. You know we are going to, of course, lead off tonight's discussions with the latest coaching hires. It was reported today over on Dogs Daily that Georgia would be hiring Daryl Dickey and Brandon Streeter to fill the off-field analyst roles that were vacated by Mike Bobo being promoted to offensive coordinator and Buster Faulkner being promoted to offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech. There was some rumblings that Gummy Van Gorder might be promoted in-house to one of these positions, but nonetheless, he remains on staff somehow, some way as some type of assistant. And then they add these two gentlemen today as well. Let's start with Daryl Dickey first. He was fired after 2 seasons as the offensive coordinator with Jimbo Fisher and the Texas A&M Aggies. I don't know if we're going to get to it tonight. There was some very interesting audio clips from today from Jimbo Fisher being asked about play calling duties. I'm going to tell you what, there are very few jobs in America right now that are less advantageous than the Texas A&M offensive coordinator position. So you can say what you want about him being fired, whatever. I'm not defending it. I know nothing about Daryl Dickey. I'm just telling you, it ain't all that, right? You know, you can find me. I promise you that shit right now. You come find me. All right. So if you don't get that, you are not an MBR lover. You have not been around that long. I'm sorry. It's not even a layered joke. Those are direct quotes from Jimbo Fisher. Nonetheless, I don't know what transpired out there. I don't even know how much responsibilities over the last 2 years he's had with regards to play calling. I know there was some back and forth about whether or not Jimbo was calling plays the last 2 years anyways. I think there was some forfeiting of those rights later on in the season due to some booster leniency. Look, here's the deal. Jimbo Fisher always going to be hands-on with his offensive coordinating positions nonetheless. So what does Daryl Dickey have anything to do with, or what does his past say beyond Texas A&M? Because this is a 63-year-old football coach. It says this dude's been an offensive coordinator longer than I've been alive. No shit. His first year as an offensive coordinator was 1994, 28 years ago. This will be his 29th season coaching football, and it will be his first not being involved directly on the field with play calling in the last 28 years. Think about that. That's what Georgia just picked up. So say what you want about A&M's offense. Say what you want about his Memphis days. Say what you want about whatever you can dig up on the Daryl Dickey Wikipedia page. All I see is Georgia today hired a guy that's got like 35 years of experience in college football, coaching offense and being around offense. Needless to say, he's seen some stuff. So that's the first hire, right? You got this veteran, literally a vet that's seen everything, to come in and do vet stuff. Like, if you've ever been around good coaching staffs, there's always the older guy. I don't know Daryl Dickey, but I bet he chews tobacco. Every old coach like this chews tobacco, and he sits in the corner and he goes, well, I don't know, coach. I'm gonna tell you what. This right here is a problem for them. And then next thing you know, y'all score 3 touchdowns because coach over there, hey, coach, this guy right here, man, ooh, I don't know, brother. And then they just absolutely attack that dude, right? That's what you just picked up in this old head. He's, whether he comes through 2 or 3 times a year, as long as he's at Georgia and helps you kind of get over the hump with a game plan or polish off some protection or figure out, hey, this is how we did this in the early 2000s versus that pressure. Whatever it is, Daryl Dickey done seen it. He's got a way to kind of coach and get it implemented. So that's there. And that's kind of what I think about that hire, right? Again, this is a 63-year-old football coach. This is not, quote unquote, the rehab clinic. Come in here, get your image rewashed, and we'll send you back into the world to be an offensive coordinator. I don't know if Daryl Dickey wants to be an offensive coordinator at this level anymore. I don't know if he needs to, by God. He's been coaching Power 5 football and mid-major football at the offensive coordinator position for, again, 30 years. Okay, his retirement, his pension got to be out of this world by now. All right, so he's probably going to hang out and do, like I said, some polishing off of some game plans. The next guy we're going to talk about, totally different end of the spectrum. Okay, if you want to talk about bringing in guys that maybe have some tarnished images or tarnished, records recently with their coaching records and revamping them to what they were, the hot name that they were prior to their previous quote-unquote seasonal transgressions, Brandon Streeter, one of them. Okay, Brandon Streeter is one of them. This is a 46-year-old football coach who is a quarterback and relationships specialist. Okay, I wouldn't exactly say Brandon Streeter is known at 46 years old for his coordinating prowess. That is not what we have here, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not this, okay? This is a football coach that, again, 46 years old. He has 5 years of coordinating experience as an offensive mind. 4 of those were not at the Power 5 level. Only one of them was. It was this last year at Clemson, and he was immediately fired. Now, you could say what you want, and I would argue that is a football coach that waited in line to have an opportunity to get his chance to be the coordinator and then was ran out on a kind of a iffy situation and roster management issue and kind of a deteriorating offensive staff and deteriorating offensive decline. And he was at the bottom of that pitfall for a year, and then they tossed him and hired one of the Riley boys. All right, so I could make the argument that Brandon Streeter got a bad rap. I could also make the argument that Brandon Streeter's got a whole lot of James Coley written all over him. Okay, a guy that sat around, wait around, got his opportunity at a premier program, and then, okay, one or the other. Okay, you could read this one or the other. I think it's like most of the cases, right in the middle. I think the reality of the situation is this is a guy who is really, really good at developing relationships on the recruiting trail and getting good football players to come play for him. Listen to these names. Trevor Lawrence, Cade Klubnik, DJ Uyunglele, Hunter Johnson, Chase Vizina, Miles Murphy, a defensive end out of nowhere from Hillgrove High School down here in Powder Springs, Georgia. This dude, particularly at the quarterback position, lands freaks. Okay, guys that are like 5-stars, the elite of elite quarterback prospects. This guy landed them at Clemson, of all places, for a consistent basis. Now, I read off those names. And if you're listening today, you're saying, dang, dude, not a lot of hit rates there. I mean, the Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence hit. We'll see about Cade Klubnik, DJ Uyunglele, transfer miss. Hunter Johnson, transfer miss. Chase Vizina, we'll see. Going to be a freshman this year, right? Going to see long down the road. Miles Murphy, good football player. Doesn't matter about the hit rate. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the ability to land these dudes, right? The ability to bring these guys onto the roster, which is kind of coveted now. I don't know if y'all been paying attention, but there's some good quarterbacks out on the recruiting trail that Georgia's after right now, right? There's some absolute dudes on the recruiting trail that this guy could presumably get close to, right? And develop relationships with and be able to talk ball. I don't know what the sauce is. I'm going to have to figure it out. But those are some names of some different recruitments. There's a lot going on there, right? Like Trevor Lawrence, historically, one of the greatest high school football players here in the state of Georgia. I'm sure Dabo had a lot to do with that. So what was going on and transpiring with the coaching transition at Georgia probably had a lot to do with that. But you would presume Brandon Streeter had a lot to do with that as well. Okay, Cade Klubnik was very much so an organizational, professional, kind of like leadership-based approach. Right? That wasn't some, hey, where are the best bells and whistles? No, that was like you had to talk professional. That was hey, we're going to talk business with this young man. Like not money, but like business. Like how can you increase my stock? How can you increase what we got going on while also what can we do to enhance my leadership capabilities? So these are all interesting recruitments that this dude had a direct hand in. And that's extremely, extremely valuable. Which brings us to this idea of Kirby's coaching clinic kind of rehab facility, right? Okay, I think one of the keynote signs that Alabama was just the supremacy of the sport. They were running the sport was their ability to just kind of grab and stash these really high-end football coaches that just kind of got bad raps. They just had a bad 18 months. They had a bad, 9-month cycle. They had a bad season. They had a bad run as a head coach. Maybe they weren't a head coach, gave it a shot, probably shouldn't have been doing it. Next thing you know, they're Derek Dooley for the rest of their career, right? That's okay. Derek Dooley's a hell of a football coach. He knows a lot about football, and he's a great addition to your staff. That's why he keeps bouncing around these SEC staffs. He's just an example, one of many like this. But when you are at the top of this sport, there are highly, highly qualified people like Brandon Streeter that want to come get that rub, that want to put that Power G on and reestablish their image of one of these hot young names in the sport of college football. 3 or 4 years ago, Brandon Streeter, when Clemson was winning national titles with Trevor Lawrence as the quarterback, everyone was thinking about Brandon Streeter being one of the next ones, right? He has one bad season. Now he's an off-the-field analyst. Come get that rub, baby. Come figure this out. Come rehab that image, and let's get it pumped out. There are a litany of examples of Alabama doing this, right? Whether it's the Butch Joneses of the world, who is a head coach at Arkansas State still, right? Whether it's, we just went through Derek Dooley, whether it's Sarkisian coming to get it, whether it's Bill O'Brien coming to get it, whether it's, the most famous one, Lane Kiffin coming through the car wash and getting cleaned up. Whatever it is, your image, the best sign of like you are the program is this happening on a regular basis. And we can say what we want, right? We can say what we want about Kirby doing it last year and last couple off seasons with his lifelong buddies, right? But these hires the last couple of seasons, these stash away really good football coaches that are somehow out of jobs for whatever reason because they had a bad 3 years or had a bad 18 months at South Carolina, Will Muschamp, or had a bad year at Auburn, Mike Bobo, under a unwinnable circumstance with a head coach out there, right? All of these things, come in here, get the car wash, get rubbed, get cleaned of your image, and now all of a sudden you're coordinators again. Granted, at Georgia, both those guys were going to end up on Kirby's staff inevitably. They're, again, lifelong friends. But those were the first two examples, right? You could say the same thing about Scott Cochran. He's on the special team staff. He will eventually, I would assume, be up for promotion at some point down the line, right? Georgia is at this, edge of hiring and stashing away these really good football coaches. And this time, they went and did it with guys that aren't really from the smart tree. Brandon Streeter's not a Kirby guy. Brandon Streeter was a Dabo guy. And then Dabo turned around and said, get on out of here. Weird thing there with Clemson for him to just kind of get tossed. But nonetheless, you saw Alabama do this for years, and I think this is kind of the first sign of Georgia really doing it again with a guy outside of his kind of beat or his tree, if you will. Welcome in to tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you as we let off with. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, doing all that good stuff. Let's talk some spring football. All right. First of all, let's kind of give you a little anecdote. I think one of the best things that we do on this channel is kind of explain what football feels like, what football is from a peel back the curtain type of deal, right? I'm not saying I'm the only, but from a beat reporter's perspective, I have a unique viewpoint because I'm far more player's perspective because that is my background than I am. So beat reporter perspective, that is my job, right? So let's talk about spring practice from a player's perspective here. Georgia did something that was unique based off my knowledge of how this works. I'm not doing anything here. I'm just saying, I guarantee you, knowing the way that this university goes through not only their rule books, but what information gets put out, like video, okay? I'm not releasing any information to let you know that they were in full pads Saturday, okay? I'm also not releasing any information to let you know that Tuesday and Thursday they were in helmets. And typically how this works is you go helmets, shells, which is helmets and shoulder pads and shorts, okay? You're not in pants. And then after that, you get into full pad periods. This is what we call the acclimation period of football. You do it every spring, you do it every fall. This is the sports way of getting your body acclimated to playing this sport. Georgia somehow Tuesday, Thursday, helmets, acclimating to straight pads. Now, here I know how my sorry ass would have responded to this in college, because I would have been soft and I would have been. My team was soft. That's why we were bad. Most teams are soft to this. Most teams don't want to bang and clang all day long, every day. They don't want it. They don't want that smoke. Literally, as the kids say these days, they do not want that smoke. But when I watched the highlights of Georgia's practice the other day, and I know it's what they want you to see, but when I saw them in practice with the video cameras out of what they released Saturday, you know what stuck out to me? Not only the fact that they were in full pads, but what stuck out to me was CJ Madden. I don't know if CJ Madden watches the program. I don't know why he would, despite the fact that we shot his commitment video. Shouts out. Nonetheless, Justin Nichols, you did a hell of a job. CJ Madden, a dude that may never play meaningful downs for the University of Georgia. His most meaningful snaps in a Georgia football uniform will be Monday through Thursday in that indoor practice facility against the Ones, giving them a damn look. That is his job, at least this year, from what the roster looks like. And you know what that dude did the first time he was licked up in Indies on camera? It's clear as day, individual period. And they're in full pads, and they're doing like warm-up hitting drills. Get your head across, pop the pads, do all that stuff. He gets hit as like a fake ball carrier, and he releases this sound of joy, like this, like a kid, like not even Christmas. Like I've been into skiing lately. Have you ever heard someone like bomb a mountain and like fresh powder day, like get to the bottom of it, and there's just this elation of joy, just like you can't even explain it. Okay, that is what I saw from these football players putting the pads on, not for the first time in 4 months, not for the first time in a meaningful situation since November, like the rest of the damn sport. These dudes had the pads on 2 months ago. Y'all different. Y'all different over there in that building, man. Y'all are absolutely different over there. And that is my like spring intel, like 101 for you right there. Them boys are in pads already, and they are elated to be doing so in a sport where people don't necessarily love the work. They act like they want to. They talk like they need to. They do all that mammo jammo stuff. And then when the pads come on, the body language gets shit. The energy gets bad. Talk to any football coach in America that doesn't coach at an elite program. They will tell you the worst practice they have every camp is the first day they put on pads. Every single time. Low energy, coach. We had low energy today. It felt like they were wearing 35 pounds worth of gear. Well, they were. That's fine. Not at Georgia. At Georgia, it's right? That's how it ought to be. Let's actually talk some position battles. I told you we were going to give you some intel on these things. Guys, by the way, if you like any portion of what we do, okay, if you're catching the vibes, if you're listening to like, damn, that guy knows a lot about the program that I love. If you're a passerby, if you're not someone that's always subscribed to the channel or always watching us, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Okay, all of this stuff. I have people all the time. It's like, damn, I didn't know Brooks was in there. Like, yep. We are. Head over, check it out. Okay, we're over there every single day giving you some type of insight about your football program on a day-to-day. So patreon.com/Brooks Austin. And of course, the film guy gives you, I'm over here now. The film guy gives you film over there as well. So yeah, make sure you're doing that. Let's talk quarterback and what's going on there. I've continued. We've talked on the channel how we've given you the reps, the actual rep kind of split over on Patreon, but we've talked about on this channel how we think there's like a guy who's kind of like started this spring in a position that he should be in, which is Carson Beck as like the 1, and then 1B is Brock Vandagriff. So we've given Carson Beck his flowers. We've even done a film study on Carson Beck over there on Patreon. Okay, we spent about 45 minutes watching his cuts against Vandy during the season. So it's over there. You can go watch it, but nonetheless, let's give somebody else his flowers. Brock Vandagriff every single day does something. Every single practice does something that reminds everyone in the building that he could be him. Like, he throws balls, he escapes situations, he does things on the move, he does athletic feats, he stands and gets his cleats in the ground and throws balls that make you say, okay, yeah, that was the number 2 overall quarterback behind only Caleb Williams coming out of high school. There is very, very clear flashes of that. It's always been about a matter of consistency in a program that values consistency. Does that make sense? It's not about, hey, we went through, 40 reps today, okay? Brock got 12 or 15 of them. All right, Brock got 15 of these reps, and in 10 of these reps, he did okay. He got the job done. One of these reps, he made a oh my God throw, and then 4 of these reps, wow, what happened? What was going on? Talk me through your process here. 12, that kind of thing. So that's kind of been what the feedback's been. As far as how that develops moving forward, I don't know, man. I think you have a bunch of really, really talented quarterbacks in the room, as your coach has alluded to over and over and over again. The key, and I'm not saying this to be like, I don't know, like instigator. I'm not trying to be an instigator, but the best case scenario for Georgia is that all 3 of these quarterbacks remain on this roster until at least December. End of story. End of story. So whatever you need to do to make sure that happens, make sure that happens. Because y'all know this sport. Y'all know how this works. 1 goes down as quick as 2. Y'all watched the NFC Championship game, didn't you? San Francisco entered the game with 3 quarterbacks, or 2 quarterbacks on the roster, right? They were active. Next thing you know, they're playing a fullback. Like it's like that. I mean, it happens immediately like that. So the best case scenario is that you have 3 scholarship quarterbacks, because that's all you have on roster right now, that all 3 of those guys end up there and on roster in September. Okay. And not having us like a concrete quarterback discussion probably, increases the abilities that happens. Okay. Even though maybe there is a clear-cut guy. Maybe there isn't. Okay. Let's talk offensive tackle. Some guys can dribble left-handed and right-handed. I think the term for that is ambidextrous. Okay. Some animals, they can swim in the water. And some animals, they can run on land. I believe that's called amphibious. Okay. Some tackles, offensive tackles, they can run on that land over there at right tackle. They ain't got no problems. They can keep their feet in that ground, and they can run on that land. But sometimes the right tackles can't go over that left side, swim in that ocean, hang around with them sharks. They're not quite amphibious, is what I'm trying to tell you. And though Amarius Mims has all the athletic qualities of a potential amphibian, he is not currently amphibious. So maybe by the fall, Amarius Mims is amphibious. Right now, he only walks on land. So he's going to be a first-round land walker. That dude's going to be a first-round right tackle walking that land like the biggest of giants. All right? And maybe he spends all summer figuring out whether he can swim in the ocean. Okay? But it's not as valuable to just be able to walk on land, but it's pretty damn valuable to be one of the best giants walking on land. Okay? Maybe one day he becomes amphibious. I don't know if it's this spring. Okay? So, that being said, Ernest Green working at left tackle. Austin Blaschke working at left tackle. Amarius Mims working at left tackle, but walking on land. We all get it. We all got it. All right, there we go. Hey, man, it ain't no problems. I was hella amphibious. I mean, boy, was I amphibious. But I wasn't 6'7". I wasn't a giant. I was the definition of a tadpole. Okay, are tadpoles amphibious yet? Because they don't have legs yet. Tadpoles can only live on water, right? Hey, look at us. Who would have thought? Not me. Not me. Let's talk tight ends. Just how many touches will Brock Bowers get this year? Well, if you're a Patreon sub, you already know. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. We've got more coming on this position later, so I'm going to skip over it. But I do think all 4 in this room are going to play this season. That's Bowers, Delp, Lucky, and Spurlin. We'll talk again a little bit more about these guys a little bit later. Let's talk defensive back. Give you a little spill on this. I think the defensive back room, particularly the star through the safety position, and maybe one of the corner spots, will be as versatile and will play as many bodies in as many different combinations as you will on the offensive line. I think those are your 2 deepest position groups. Take linebacker out. Linebacker is a different breed now at the University of Georgia. Linebacker is like deeper than you were during the Chubb, the year where you had Chubb, Sony, and Swift on the same roster. You're deeper at linebacker now than you were at running back then. I kid you not. That's going to blow your mind. You're going to think I'm stupid. I'm not. They're deeper there. So we're going to take linebacker out of the discussion moving forward. But the defensive back room is as deep with as many talented and ready to play football players as that offensive line room is, which I think is about 7 deep right now with guys that can play in the SEC. We'll rattle them off. Green, Blaschke, Truss, Cedric Van Pran, Tate Ratledge, Micah Morris, and Amarius Mims. Those 7, Dylan Fairchild, we can go 8 if you really want to. Those 8 football players, I think, are SEC quality and ready to go. The defensive back room, I think you could say the same thing. I think Danilo Morissette, or not Danilo Morissette, I think Kamari Lassiter, obviously. We got, I always forget his name, Dalen Everett, right? Nyland Green, A.J. Harris, Janelle Aguero, David Daniel Sisavon, Malachi Starks, right? Dan Jackson, okay, Tyke Smith. That's 9 already. That's 9 guys, okay, for a team that plays 5 at a time. Smoke Bowie, when he gets back, that's 10, okay? You're as deep at defensive back. You will play as many of those football players as you do on the offensive line. And that's good because in the day and age of this college football, you're going to play a lot of bodies anyways. You're going to need to play a lot of bodies. So we'll take questions here in a second, I guess. It's kind of ties into offensive line. It says, who is our next center? The kind of intel we've gotten back right now, if you had to play a backup right now, it'd be Austin Blaschke. But I think there is some promising signs based off what I've been told. There are some promising signs that maybe Jared Wilson is that guy. Maybe he actually becomes, and I'm not going to say it's about me, maybe he actually lives up to the my guy status that we gave him coming out of high school. If y'all remember, I was hella bullish on Jared Wilson. Was absolutely just in love with his foot speed, his ability to show explosiveness at such a large frame. There's been some hardening. We got to harden some edges. Like when we come to play college football on the line of scrimmage, like we really have to be okay with violence. We have to be okay with throwing our hands. We have to be okay with getting punched in the face. We have to be almost like we almost have to crave physicality. Or we have to wake up and be willing to seek those altercations on the football field. That's what offensive line is about. That's what defensive line is about. That is what that box is about. That box is about being ready to go to what it sounds cliche, being ready to go to physical combat every single day for 4 years while you're in college. That's what it's about. I don't know if Jared Wilson was quite ready for that when he got to college. It took some hardening of those edges. It sounds like that's what's happening right now. It sounds like there's some turn. And if you're going to play in that, like specifically guard to guard, that left guard to right guard to center, like triangle right there, those 3 positions, man, you cannot soft. I mean, I don't call any football player soft because that's just not it. You don't willingly sign up for this stuff if you're soft. Some people do in high school, not in college. They end up tapping out and never getting on the field. There are very few soft football players playing on the field on Saturdays, particularly in the box. But nonetheless, the edges have become hardened, and the snapping is getting cleaned up. So I think that's the future, if you will. But the immediate future right now is Austin Blaschke. Blaschke is a unique football player in the sense that, from all accounts, he can play. I don't know if he can play guard. I'm sure if you asked him to, he would figure out how to do it. But he can play left tackle, center, and right tackle. Like, he is amphibious. He is ambidextrous. He is all of the above, okay? He's just not a 1%er. He don't look like the rest of them. He don't look like Amarius Mims. He don't even look like Warren McClendon, okay? So, yeah, there you go. Let's talk about wide receivers. We already talked about the defensive backs. I think the year of the transfers, it sounds like, plus Ladd. Early signs point to exactly what we told you, 11 personnel, okay? Last year, you were a 12 personnel-based team. You'll play it a little bit this year. It'll be in the mix. Bobo's never not had 12 in the personnel package, even when he didn't have good tight ends, okay? So you'll have a 12 personnel package. You will run it. We'll tell you a little bit more in a little bit about the tight end position and why we think you're going to stay a little bit, not 12 heavy, but 12 featured. Okay, you'll have it. But I think your base personnel package this year, whereas last year it was 12, this year will be 11. I think Bowers will obviously be at the Y. Your F, if you will, your slot receiver will be a rotation of Ladd McConkey and Arian Smith. And I think by the end of the, by September, Dominic Lovett is starting at Z with Ladd McConkey rotating in there with him as well. And at the X, I think Ra Thomas has, based off what we have heard, kind of been noticeable. Okay, like, hey, he a guy, right? He looks like one of those. So, yeah, Ra Thomas and Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint rose me. Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint at the X position. Okay, side note, complete sidebar here. Normally, I'd switch a camera angle. We don't have it going on here. I love you guys. I truly do. I love every single one of you. Okay, but I'm dumb. I just am. I'm dumb. My brain, I don't know what's going on up there. It just happens. But some of these things, like Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint, or Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint, or Rosemy, my brain decides long ago that they are the way they are. Javon Bullard. It's Bullard, you idiot. I know. Someone got my messages the other day and said, it's lackadaisical. It's lackadaisical, Brooks, not lax-a-daisical. And I said, I know. I would never write it like I'm a lax bro daisical. Okay? I would never. But my brain is my brain, people. Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint, Javon Bullard. I don't know why. I don't know. It's just the way my brain works. And again, I can hear my little voice saying, it's Bullard, you idiot. But my big voice, Bullard, bleh, just bleh. And I know you're sitting at home, you're thinking, God dang, this dude wants to talk for a living? This dude wants me to subscribe to his channel. Yes, I do. Okay. It's a imperfection in me. Okay. It's why I could give you an effort as a play-by-play guy. Carson Beck drops back. He looks down the field, and he's got Ladd McConkey, touchdown, Georgia. Like, we could try, okay, and then toss it to the color analyst. But I'm just a color guy, I have no edges, no professionalism, no clean cut approach. But that's just me, man. It's just who I am. So, yeah, sidebar over. Let's talk edges. Give you a little intel on this one. I thought it was funny. I listened to we got some players to interview over during Pro Day, and Nolan Smith come over there, and we asked him obviously about the outside linebacker room. I call it the edge room because they really only play one. They play a jack. They play Sam when the other team's in 12, but run base 12, attached 12. They don't play a lot of base 3-4. They're in nickel a ton. I would say they're in nickel like 80% of snaps. Nickel and beyond. So meaning like either nickel or dime. I would say they're in that 80% of snaps. So 20% of snaps, they're playing two outside linebackers. But the other 80% of snaps, they're playing one. And his name is Jack, and he plays edge, right? It was funny to me to listen to Nolan, who has been the Jack. Previous to him, it was Azeez Ojulari. Okay, previous to him, they played kind of two of them at once. Okay, but nonetheless, he is handing it down to the next guy. And the next old head in that room now has suddenly become Chaz Chambliss. And I thought it was funny to hear Nolan say that he told Chaz, like, hey, man, I better be coming back in here and that you've been taking these guys out, fishing and having some basically like fellowship, right, with these guys, doing it the way that you do it, right? It's your room now, essentially, is what he was telling them. Bond with the guys however you want to bond with them, however you most naturally will bond with them. Because I don't know if you guys know anything about Chaz Chambliss. Didn't exactly win like Mr. Outgo, like most likely to become run for public office in high school. Like he wasn't running for homecoming king. This ain't one of them. This is I show up, I lift weights, I come to practice, I hit people, I go home, I eat steak and rice, I go to sleep. I wake up, we do it again. That's what this dude is. He ain't necessarily here for all the rah-rah and the hoorah and the hoopla, okay? Relate to the guys how you relate to them. I thought that was the message I got from Nolan. And the other thing, I mean, we haven't talked about it on this network, but again, another sidebar here, but I think that's what you guys love here on this channel every once in a while. It's just random thoughts. The story about Nolan like coming back and taking Kirby's job. I could see it. I 100% could see it, because the thing I have found about successful football coaches, it's not necessarily about how great their scheme is or how great they are, fundamentally, or how great they are at knowing the game of football or any of that nonsense. It's about like what the room feels when they walk in. It's about how they approach every single day. I believe that successful football coaches would make successful CEOs. I do. I think it's why you see Kirby Smart speak at all these business conferences. People want to know why he is who he is. I think I feel the same kind of vibe from Jordan. Or I'm about to go to this one. I had the same vibes about Nolan Smith the first time I was ever around him. You get the same vibes from Jordan Davis. If Jordan Davis don't go on to save the most lives in the history of Christianity, he's going to be one of the greatest football coaches to ever touch this planet, because he's just one of them. He just he just makes you want to do whatever it is that you need to do. I don't know how to explain these people, but if you've ever been around them, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Nolan's one of those. Man, for this edge room, it was such a big spring for guys like Marvin Jones and even Jalen Walker. I know Jalen's a linebacker, but he needed to take rushing reps, because Georgia needs, more than anything, maybe defensively, needs to find a 10-sack guy. And I think Michael, defensively, if you guys know this, if you've been watching here, defensively, the defensive end is not going to rack up a bunch of sacks for the University of Georgia. They play in a 4-eye. They're head up on tackles. They get a lot of double teams. If Trayvon Walker, and granted, Michael's a much more far advanced rusher from a hand fighting perspective and just a pass rush skill set perspective than Trayvon. But if Trayvon Walker ain't racking up a bunch of sacks, if even Malik Herring isn't racking up decent sacks numbers, then like, hey, maybe that's a hard position to put up stats at. So I don't necessarily think Michael's going to come out. If he does, if he has 12 sacks this year, it will probably be the most impressive 12-sack season to date in college football, because he's gonna do it through the outside shoulder of the guard. And guys, if you know anything about football, you know what that means. So there you go. Moving forward with that discussion. But it was such a big spring for Marvin, because Marvin is probably the most physically talented of all of these guys. Like, he is as long and as explosive and twitchy as Darius Smith. He is as athletic and can find and get his way out of body positionings as a Sam Mpemba or as a Nolan Smith. He is all of those into one 6'6", 245-pound football player, but he just is an infant when it comes to playing football and playing high-level football, where it's not just, hey, we get to say down, say, hey, and go find the football. That's not what you get to do at Georgia anymore, unfortunately. At Georgia, it's much more, hey, this is what the call is. This is where I'm supposed to be. If I'm not there, we're going to give up a touchdown or I'm going to get pulled. That's that. Okay, so it was very important for him to get the reps. You guys know that. I already talked about Jalen. Jalen's a similar thing, but Jalen's not a you got to learn football aspect. It's you got to learn how to rush with your body, right? He is 6'3", not 6'6". Okay, he is 238 pounds, not 265 pounds. Okay, he is a shorter, more compact guy that they're going to ask to kind of play Sam. Okay, if you notice what they were doing last year, okay, when they needed to get into a traditional base formation, they played, Nolan at the jack position and Jalen Walker at the Sam position. When Nolan went out, they played Robert Beal at the jack position and Jalen Walker at the Sam position. So there you go. As far as intel from this practice, I think Damon Wilson might be like the next. He might be one of these 10-sack guys. He might be the guy that actually provides juice from the edge position and gets home. So yeah, not really a Q&A night tonight. We're already 40 minutes in, and guys, I got so much left. We still got to get to big year twos. There's some big and we got tape tonight. We got tape to watch tonight, so stick around for that. We got some DeMello Jones tape that we're gonna watch, the most recent commit. So don't be heading out on me. Matter of fact, hit that like button while you're here. Great night to be on the Film Guy Network. Appreciate you guys for being here. Not exactly off-season numbers right there. Them right there is August numbers. I like seeing those. Also want to take the time to promote what I'm doing on G-Day right quick while I'm filibustering. Let me go check this out right quick. I'm affiliated, not necessarily affiliated, but was asked to show up and perform. You know, I'm a little show pony. Perform at the Players Lounge event on G-Day. And I want to read you some notes here. Okay, I'm going to put a link in the bio, but basically, hey, come kick it April 15th at Creature Comforts in Athens for the second annual G-Day tailgate with the Players Lounge. Obviously, food and drinks. I believe you get free beer or a free beer upon admission if you sign up with the link that I'm going to attach in the bio today. I know if you're watching this live, come back and watch or come back and check the feed. We'll give it to you. There'll be a live broadcast. Obviously, that's yours truly, and they'll be giving out raffles as well. You know, this is Aaron Murray affiliated Keith Marshall. We're gonna have these guys come through on the channel here and on the network and do a little home and home with these guys. So yeah, come check us out at the Players Lounge on G-Day. Again, I'll throw a link in the bio. Matter of fact, I'll throw the link in the chat right meow. How about that? Okay. Yeah, it should be a good event. I'm gonna bring the board out. I don't want to give too many details, but fuck it. I'm gonna bring the board out. We're gonna do some fun. We're gonna have some fun stuff. Okay. Might talk some ball with some football guys. You know, I think that's what we do best. I think we do it in a very unique way. All right. I just put the link in the chat on YouTube as well. So there you go. Refresh that and you can sign up. They're trying to get, I think it's first 1,000 people free admission. It's supposed to be lit. Okay. It's supposed to be a bunch of people. I know a lot of folks go to the G-Day game and get after it. We're going to do some in-person film over there. Hopefully, if all things hold up. I know there were some technical difficulties during the Oregon game, but if you came to that tailgate during the Oregon game, I think there was like 20, 25 people there by our little thing. You know, your boy was mic'd up. We had some audio. It wasn't just, you know, hey, come hang out and watch Brooks do a show on his little laptop. Nah, it was an interactive experience. It was a good opportunity to put some names to some faces and just mingle with the folks and, you know, show some dog love. So there you go. Shout out to the Players Lounge. Come holler at me on G-Day, April 15th. Yeah, hit that thumbs up button. Let's keep rolling on this show. Hey, there are some big year 2 evals coming up for some Georgia football players in that 2022 signing class. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, Brooks, what do you mean? Well, what I mean is, yeah, I got a blanket up in here, dude. It is cold. Georgia got to figure it out. State of Georgia got to figure it out. I'm not mad at you. Matter of fact, I kind of like me a fickle woman that can't really make up her mind. Don't we all? And that's kind of what Georgia's weather's doing right now. Don't really know if it wants to be hot during the day, super cold during the night, if it wants to be 35, maybe snowing up in Northeast Georgia, and then 80 by Saturday. Don't really know how we aren't tornado season, America. I thought tornadoes were supposed to be hot and cold fronts mixing together and causing a whoop-de-whoop. I guess not. Anyways, it's kind of cold up in here. We got some blankets. No link. Haven't seen it yet. No link in here. Yeah, you guys are tripping. I'm tripping too. I'm trying to put it in the chat too. It's an Eventbrite link. Good luck. I'll send it out on Patreon. I'll put it out on Twitter. We'll get it everywhere. The weather is absolutely insane. Let's talk about year 2s. If you're going to be a national title contender, particularly one that replaces national title success, as you did last year, if you're going to three-peat, you know the same recipe we gave you last year was you're going to need some of these first-year, second-year players to like, hey, you got to take a leap. All right, you got to go from a spot player, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, to a Buckus Award finalist, okay? You got to go from a special teams player, Smile Mondon, to a dude, all right? Kamari Lassiter, you got to go from a non-starter to a guy, okay? These second-year football players last year were vital to your success. So this year, there are a couple of guys on your roster that if they don't step up, they don't make leaps like they are trending towards, then I'm not saying you're doomed. You're never doomed. You're the University of Georgia now, okay? But you're not going to be like walking away clear-cut, we have no holes football team, right? The first one in my mind is Branson Robinson. History says at the University of Georgia, your third back will account for 20% of your offensive load at the running back position. Those aren't my stats. Those are Jonathan Williams' stats, and they are as like stone cold verified. All right. At Dr. _J Will. We got that one locked down. Go follow the boy. All right. Those are his stats. They come straight from the book. All right. And they are truth. They're as good as that red letter in that good book. All right. So what does that mean? That means whether it be via rotation, right? Always like rotating at the University of Georgia as they always are, or whether that be due to necessity because a running back is seemingly always getting injured at the University of Georgia. Over the last couple of years, it was DeAndre Swift, and then it was Kenny McIntosh, and Kendall Milton's had a bad go at it at times, right? There have been running back, I'm not going to say there have been running backs that have suffered injuries. I think is it a byproduct of football. I don't think it has anything to do with those football players. As a matter of fact, all of them have shown extensive stretches in their football career where they weren't injured, and they could play at a consistent basis. So there's that. Nonetheless, what I'm telling you is you're going to need a third back if you're going to be who Georgia has been the last 7 years, okay? And over the last 2 years, offensively at the running back position, y'all know that you need kind of a variety of backs, right? Your offensive system, the way you play football nowadays, has kind of called for, hey, we need a primary ball carrier on first down that can tote the load. We need a guy on second down that can kind of do both. We need a guy on third down that can catch it and be a threat out of the backfield. You need all of these things, right? Well, what you need this year is Branson Robinson to fill some type of one of those three voids, or maybe a little bit of all of those three voids, because, again, you need a third back. Andrew Paul, we can talk about. I thought there was intel that coming out last fall that he was having a great camp, and then the knee happened. All right, so he's still on a rehab. It's only been about 8.5, 9 months since his injury. So he's back in a limited participation role, but not really going through Indy's, not really having a chance, right? That will happen this summer. That will happen this fall. We'll probably see from him this fall, right? We saw Branson Robinson last fall as well. So there you go. Yeah, admins, watch the chat, bro. Don't know what's going on in there. So yeah, there you go. Need a big year from Branson Robinson. Also need a big year from Oscar Delp. Look, he's on this list not because I think his job is like a jeopardy or anything like that, or his future of being the next guy at the Y position / H position / tight end position at Georgia is in jeopardy. In fact, I'd say he's responded to what I'm about to say in the absolute right way, and he is going to be 100% a guy this fall. However, Lawson Lucky is a psycho in all the right ways. Lawson Lucky is an absolute psycho, ladies and gentlemen. And I know we've been filled with sidebars tonight, but I want to side note again tonight, right here, right now. And I'm going to speak to young football players, and I'm going to throw a bunch of coach speak at you, but understand me, it is real, okay? Do you want to win a job at a Power 5 school? Do you want to win a football job in general? Do you want to win your job at your workplace? Do you want to be a quote-unquote dude? Just work your ass off. Work your ass off. Strain, visibly, noticeably gutting it out every single day. Show up early, leave late, all that cliche stuff. Bust your ass at every opportunity you get. Sprint your balls off when y'all are doing sprints. Be the guy. Be the guy absolutely every single time. Work like the head coach is watching you at every moment. It will one day be noticed. It will one day be noticed, but it will not be noticed on your time. It will not be noticed on when you want to have it happen. That's not how these things work. You just got to put your head down and go, okay? That's the side note. Lawson Lucky, one of them, okay? Lawson Lucky, one of those guys. Now, what it has happened, what it has created, and Oscar Delp, obviously one of those guys too. When one of these dudes enters the room, there's one of two reactions. There's, damn, that guy's a tryhard. Screw that guy. F him. Screw him. He works. I mean, what, kiss ass, brown noser, right? That's one reaction. Not a lot. Actually, 0% of that going on at Georgia. The other reaction at Georgia, and the other possible reaction when this enters the room, this type of energy of, I'm going to outwork everyone here, and you're going to know it. The only other response is to pick it up, is to respond like alphas do, to say, nah, I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be the guy that gets outworked, and to respond. That's what's happened this spring. Okay, and what does that mean for Georgia? Well, we've been talking all offseason, who's going to be the why? Who's going to be the end of line tight? because y'all don't want to be doing that with Brock Bowers. I don't want you doing that with Brock Bowers. If I have an opportunity to block with 6 and run routes with 3 or 4, by God, Brock Bowers better be one of them 3 or 4. So his ass better not be blocking. All right, so who's going to do it? And what's happened this spring with this psycho entering the room is the fact that Oscar Delp said, nah, by God made me 6'5", 245, so I'm going to put my hand in it too. And it's turned into him being one of those potential guys that can go do that and be a Y for Georgia's offense this spring. And, dude, man, that enhances your ability to continue to be multiple. Go back and listen to what coaches said about Georgia's offense last year. They didn't talk about they talked about great players. They did. But they talked about how multiple they were. And what does that mean? Obviously, that means they can do a bunch of stuff. But when you're talking about defensively, it means you got to stop a bunch of stuff. So it means in a week-to-week span, you got to take 19 to 23-year-olds and you got to say, all right, Jimmys, all right, Joes, these guys do this, and this. So we got to prepare for all of that. Guy in front row, captain stands up and goes, Coach, but last week we only had to worry about 5 things and 1 really good football player. And he goes, yeah, well, this week y'all got to worry about 19 different things. And by the way, they got all the great football players. Some people will talk about their receivers, but they got a bunch of really good football players. That's what they were last year. I think that's what they continue to be now that they have someone willing to run his head through a wall. Because that's what it is. These guys are plenty big, plenty strong to do this, but it requires a bit of disconnectedness. I had a source tell me this the other day, and I thought it was the funniest thing. And obviously, he was talking about offensive linemen, but you can apply this to anybody who plays in the box. I truly believe. When it comes to an offensive line room, you got to have a couple of beer drinkers. You got to have a bunch of beer drinkers, but you got to have a couple liquor drinkers. What does that mean? Well, it means you better have a bunch of beer drinkers that like to have a good time and get rough and rowdy, but you got to have a couple guys that drink liquor and liquor hard, and they're insane. And people are a little worried about them. And they got that edge about them that they might be unglued at any point in any time. That's what an offensive line room has to be like. And as an edge blocker, that's exactly how you kind of have to be. Kind of have to be unclicked just a little bit. Because when they ask you to run split zone and run from the right tackle's butt and go hit the defensive end over on the left tackle's butt cheek, that crap hurts. And it requires a little bit of an insane person and a little bit of a psycho. And it sounds like one psycho entered the room and the rest of the psychos responded. I had a coach in high school. His name was Robbie Ross. Shout out Coach Ross. I know for a fact he doesn't listen. Shouts out Coach Ross. But Coach Ross used to say, we as human, particularly as men, we as humans are born soaked in gasoline. We are covered in gasoline, ready to be lit on fire with passion for whatever it is that we want to do or whatever it is that we are called to do. All we need is a spark. All we need is someone or something or something to come around and just give us that spark. Be the match is what he used to say. Okay, so that's all that needs to happen. Just needs to be a match lit. And that's all that did happen, it sounds like, in that room. Big spring and summer and fall for Dalen Everett. If you're on Patreon, you know why. We'll leave it there. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Sad, not sad, but disappointing. Not even disappointing. Unfortunate that Jalen Walker and Marvin don't get to get out here this spring. We told you that. They got to have big years. I think those guys have really, really high ceilings for getting after the quarterback. And our last one on this list, for very, very obvious reasons, is Ernest Green. Y'all want to watch some tape? Okay, let's do it. We should do this a little more often, particularly in the offseason. But if you don't know, I am the film guy. All right, what I do, I think best bet is I try to educate football no different than I would if I was standing up in a room full of football players. Okay. I also think my best trait is my ability to talk to, if we speak on just like K through 12 terms, talk to the person that knows football at a kindergarten level and be able to relay information to that person while also being able to hold on to the person that knows like senior level calculus worth of football knowledge. And also be able to hold their attention, right? That is what I try to do here. Speak to the lesser knowns while also speaking to the doctors, all right? So we're going to do that right now with DeMello Jones. If you don't know, just committed to the University of Georgia to play defensive back. All right. I saw this young man play in a state championship game against Prince Avenue this year. And was it Prince Avenue or was it Bowden? Nonetheless, it was Prince Avenue. Saw him play in a state championship this year. And yeah, tremendous athlete. A bona fide 6'1", 6'1 and a half, a bona fide 4'4 runner, a Swainsboro, Georgia product. And this is one of those. He is a fully filled out. Like, it's going to say 176 on this film. I think by the time he gets to college, by the time he leaves college, he's going to be playing defensive back at like 205 pounds at 6'1 and a half. All right, he is physically one of those guys. Without further ado, let's shut up and let's get to grinding the tape. Let's do it. All right. I did a blind look here. This is his regular season tape. I haven't seen it. He did play a little bit of quarterback and receiver for Swainsboro. They were doing a whole bunch of mesh read option type stuff. They had some really great athletes, one of which is at North Carolina right now. But as you can see, man, this is a long strider. All right. There are short striders, high knee guys. This is a long strider for me. He's a really lengthy football player. And I'm going to tell you what, he likes to hit, man. He likes to play football. Okay. You have to. If you're coming to the University of Georgia, you have to like to play football. He's got natural ball skills as well. And you'll see, man, like smooth athlete. Absolutely smooth athlete. Football comes really, really easy to him. But from all accounts, works at it really, really hard. Works at it really, really hard. Look at those instincts. Look at him turn his head around. Turn that back. Okay. I love that he can flip his hips and be greasy enough and oily enough to do this type of stuff, right? Open to the field, okay? Turn to the post or to the corner, right? Flip our head around, find the football, and then high point it. That is like the definition of what you teach and coach in that defensive back room, right? I mean, you go to the combine, they do with the ball where they flip your hips and then they make you track it. That's exactly what he just did right there. And to finish it off with the high point, that's exactly what you want. I would imagine every time I look at one of these guys, I want to project them to the star position because every time I see a super versatile athlete, I want them to play that. But this might be one of those tall, long, rangy corners that they just like teach him to play corner and let him roll with his physical traits because he is built like what you want Georgia corners to look like. That's 6'1 and a half. I bet he's got 33, 34-inch arms based off what I've seen. And again, he's going to fill out to be about 200, 205 pounds. So, yeah, man, this is a really, really good football player. Now, is he as polished as some of these corners you've had come out the last couple of years? Is he as polished as a Dalen Everett coming out of IMG Academy? Absolutely not. In fact, this is a guy who's just been kind of taught to play football like that clip, like right there. I mean, him undercutting that ball, him undercutting this route. I mean, this is not, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. This is not an offense he's going to be playing against in college. It's not a route concept he's going to be playing against in college. There's going to be some maturation period. There's going to be some acclimation period, rather. But as the comments are saying right here from Stetson Ledford, he does look extremely, extremely confident or comfortable, rather. And what I have found about like high-end 1% athletes, okay, first of all, they're never in bad positionings, but everything else looks easy, right? Everything else for them looks really, really easy, like high pointing the football right there. You see his explosivity. Look, he's got another year of high school football this fall. Don't know about his early enrollment status, but this is a guy that, I mean, he's going to need Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, Fran Brown. But God gave him everything else to make him a first-round body and a first-round type of football player. So there you go. Super excited to watch him progress as a football player, particularly at the corner position, because, again, there is some rawness to it. We didn't see any bump and run there, right? Not to say he can't be working on it in his own time, but nonetheless, yeah, all the comments right there are great indicators of exactly what he is, right? He's an instinctive player. Also felt like here, as we're getting to some of these comments, I didn't do a good enough job of hitting Sperlin. All the intel on Sperlin is right now is exactly what we thought coming out. Like the day we first saw him was like, oh, shit, mismatch. This dude's 6'6" and moves really, really fluidly. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to stay in front of him. It's going to be hard to keep him from catching footballs. It's going to be really, really hard. He has a mismatch issue that is translating now at the University of Georgia. All right, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you for being here. How about that? We got a little film in here. Right under an hour here on Monday Night NBR. We'll be back again for Mas MBR tomorrow on Tuesday. Lunes. Is that no Mondays? Lunes miércoles? That's Wednesday. Sábado Domingo. I know that one. Nonetheless, tomorrow's Tuesday. MBR. We'll see you then. Love you. Hit that like button on your way out. Hey, Blitz Squad, load up.